everybody. I am Pseudo. Hi. With me, I have Mizpah.
Hello, Pseudolop.
Below me, I have Gazi. Hello. Oops. Hi.
Buongiorno, Lopzilla.
Eee. First off, thank you, Suliko. That was a brilliant gift. And it came with my chompy cobras. Look at this. Chompies. And they have little feet. They're so cute.
There are far too many plush stitched things in your studio, Pseudo. But before we do anything else, do lops and chompacabras and chewers actually get along?
Does anything get along with a chewer?
No.
Big call.
Or for that matter, a chompacabra.
Yeah. It has so many legs. It goes,
So, while we're doing strange impressions of the Gazi Chewer Chompacabra, before we kick off, I'm seeing people say no audio.
Well, I think it might be a Twitch issue. It
might be a muted microphone issue.
Aha!
No.
Although we could hear you.
No, my microphone is not muted.
No. My microphone was muted until very recently. But I went,
Well, you did try to eat your microphone, Gazi.
And Vrog, I'd be very worried about the idea of a chewer cabra. Is it going to eat you or shoot you? I'm quite sure whatever it does, the outcome's not going to be.
That'd be kind of like Stitch from Lilo and Stitch, wouldn't it?
Quite concerning.
Yeah, I could see that.
So,
anyway.
if Namira can hear us, let us know.
Yes.
I will briefly apologise for the silly amount of echo, because I'm missing half the furniture in here at the moment, because I've just moved. So you're just going to have to put up with it, I'm afraid. But, Pseudo, what are we talking about today?
Well, lucky for us, we're talking about WildStar. All things WildStar. That we're allowed to talk about WildStar, which is brilliant, because that means that we can tackle, in an analytical manner, because, you know, that's who we are, information that is publicly available, and we can tackle some stuff that has seen the news today.
Indeed. So all things 1 to 15, I believe.
Oh, yes. All things 1 to 15. And I know that for us, the more information we can get, the happier we're going to be. Of course, we're not going to be satisfied till the game is in our hands. I mean, come on, that's kind of the point. But my hope is that everything that is going on behind closed doors, including the tappy-typey that is occurring currently and coming across really clearly on this...
I've just been told I'm low.
You are low.
Would you like me to increase my gain? You can do it at your end.
You have to do it on yours. I am up as high as I can go.
Okay, is that too much?
It'll be fine. Just don't type.
Yeah. No typing.
No typey.
Typey. Avid Guru, can you now hear me a little clearer?
Well, now you're going to have to wait basically 20 to 30 seconds before they can even respond because of the new delay system that they've put into Twitch. But anyway, as I was saying, you know, everything that's going on behind closed doors to get this game out, I hope is getting closer and closer to bringing us the type of game we're looking for. But
yep, me too.
Before we do that, there is news. There is news, and we should kind of tackle that before we even set our teeth into topics. So, Gazi, do you want to handle the news? I missed that.
Okay, so incidentally, a topic is a kind of chocolate bar, which contains usually hazelnut and sultana.
No caramel?
No caramel, though, surprisingly.
No caramel on a topic?
I don't believe there is. Someone to Wikipedia. But meanwhile, the news. So, this week has seen some quite interesting information come out. There has been a Ask Me Anything thread on MMORPG.com with Stefan Frost, who is the design producer. I remember this from last week. Basically, over the course of something like 2 hours, he answered every single question, pretty much. There were some that he missed, but pretty small, on all manner of subjects, apart from 2 things that were completely verboten. War plots and raids. During the discussion, he mentioned a couple of interesting bits and pieces. There was one topic that we're going to come on to in a bit, which was around character customization and how they wanted to look at adding sliders and so on to body types and so on, but they experienced clipping issues and animation issues when they started doing that. That hasn't stopped them from saying they'd like to do it, and they're saying it might be something that they consider once the game goes live. There are also an awful lot of other bits and pieces. I would really encourage you to check it out if you haven't already, because there's so much information there. It's nothing particularly startlingly new, no groundbreaking like headlines like Minion Idiot March or anything like that, but it gives quite an insight into the development process and what they're looking at doing now. Apart from that, we've all been, well, I at least have been playing the WildStar beta, and I'm allowed to talk about it, which is fantastic. And there have been a couple of bits and pieces that have creeped out of that as well. We've seen a lot of announcements, a lot of people putting up videos, a lot of people saying this is the 1 to 15 content, and we will be digging into the 1 to 15 content quite shortly.
Absolutely.
In other news, Scooter, David Bass, the senior community manager, put a post up on Reddit listing all of the bits and pieces that have yet to be discussed. So these are all the topics they're still planning dev speaks over, maybe a live stream, maybe a post or something like that to say, this is a particular feature of WildStar that we want to dig more into a little bit more. And war plots are one of those, raids are another of those, social systems and guilds are another one of those, character customization is one, all those bits and pieces. And that was a huge list, so there's a lot more still to come. He said they want to get through that list over the next few months, which kind of makes me think, next few months, and Stefan Frost in his AMA referenced, we're going to be getting through this over the next few months. So, does this mean, once those next few months are done, are we going to see a release date? My personal gut feel is somewhere between March and May, but I could be wrong. Could quite easily be wrong. But what do you reckon, Mizpah?
Well, we're certainly into the phase of development where they're trying to put a layer of polish on, getting to a certain point, making sure things work. And, these are steps we've got to see them go through. I'll be pleased if it's in the timeline that you're talking about. The critical thing to me is enough time is spent to get stuff right. We all know the viewpoint of the fastest way to burn $1 million is release an MMO before it's ready. And everything we've seen so far from Carbine is really, really consistent. So I'm not expecting it to be immediately around the corner. Next few months, it depends how you interpret that phrase, but I could certainly see it being in that window. The question is to different people, what does the next few months mean? Pseudo.
Oh, that's an easy one. Then, easily the next few months to me means whenever everything is ready. I'll be blunt. Everyone, as I said at the very start of the show, I can't wait till the game is in my hands and I can sit down, get together with my guild, prep for that opening, the servers are coming up, go kind of moment. But the reality is, if they bring me a game that is unfinished, or, they bring me a game where they say, we were going to have Elder Game content, we just couldn't fit it in, immediate disappointment. I am going to immediately start questioning things. And that's my point. I don't think they're going to go that route. So for me, when it's ready is in the next couple months. Now, if that means August and if that means December, I don't really care. What I want is a polished game with the stuff that they promised. I don't expect everything, all bells and whistles, because the reality is an MMO is in a constant state of evolution. It's a constant state of iteration. That is what makes a persistent world. If you just build a world and leave it, that's stupid. If you take the time and you go, okay, we're going to, like Frost said in the AMA, they're going to constantly review metrics. They're going to constantly review forums. They're going to constantly listen to feedback, even after the game is out. So this means we're going to have an iterative world. Now, they have made certain promises to us, rating being one of them, war plots being another, them working together in some manner, shape, or form. We have yet to see anything about this. So obviously, I just want to wait for it to be ready. So a couple months to me could easily mean 6 months. It could easily mean a year. I don't care, as long as it's where it needs to be, what I've been promised.
We do know one thing about how war plots and raids are going to work together.
Yes. We only know
Which I found
one.
out back in February.
We do.
Yes. Where you can capture a raid boss and
Yeah.
That's
Wander him into your
tied up
base.
and then straight into your war plot.
yes. Gaffney has gone up against the end boss from Stormtalon, I believe, is what he had said. The thing is, though, as we had said in a previous episode of Cosmotronic, it's all great and dandy to know that raids are going to assist war plots. I want to know how war plots are going to assist raids, and that's not even been revealed. And I have a hard time believing that nothing is going to happen.
Oh no, there has to be. There
There has to be something.
to keep the parity. But I want to just spool back on a thought process, and we've just talked about the next few months, whatever that might be. And you're going to see, in my view, decision making. You're going to see a decision to say, do we polish X a little bit more, or do we put Y in? Do we make item A available in version 1, or do we make it available in version 2? But of course, as a result of doing so, you have to sacrifice item C. Now, it's very, very easy, whatever choices people make, to focus on any negative outcomes. And negative is an overstated word, but you have a certain amount of resources, time being one of them, you make choices. And I think it's important to me that, well, me, myself, and the community look at it and say, are we making smart choices? Are we as a community making smart requests, demands, and expectations?
Yeah.
Or do we just bang on, and I can go and get a drum to bang it, I've got one through there, but we can just bang on about stuff that we don't see? Or do we actually go, well, what's really critical? What's going to make this game my home for the next 5 years? And as long as they keep doing that, I'm going to be a happy bunny, because there should be room for the world to evolve perpetually. What we see on day 1, but better not what we see on day a year and 1. And I'm very sure that won't be the case. But that's my personal thought on that particular tidbit of information. Gazimoff.
So, I agree with you to a certain extent. You've got to be able to pick and choose your battles where you are. I think that they really need to kind of crank the handle and start, if they've already got a date in mind, which I'm guessing they do, then they really need to start focusing on that date and say, okay, this is what we need to do to hit that date, with a little bit of leeway for bugs and issues that crop up and stuff like that. This is the stuff that we'd like to have, but we can't squeeze it in right now. So we'll put that to one side and we'll come back to it later. Now, every single MMO has that to a certain extent. It launches with as much as it can, but it always gets a bit of refinement afterwards. I remember the Secret World. When the Secret World came out, it had some of the ropiest animations ever. When they actually launched, in fact, a couple of months, in fact, no, 6 months after it launched, they rebuilt the animation framework completely, and they added a load of sliders so you could customize your character and all those bits and pieces. That's the kind of thing which I'm expecting, not just this is what we have now, but ongoing development as the game evolves.
Well, the thing that's going to stand out most to me, I mean, when you're coming down to the crunch time, they haven't released a lot of information about certain key things. And anytime they release a new bit of information, like let's say they start to release some information about, war plots, the war plot community is going to get their hands on it, and they're going to yay or nay quite a bit. WildStar is not going to have, or I should say the Carbine team is not going to have a great amount of time to sit there and quote unquote, tailor fit war plots to get everything out there. They're kind of at a point right now where they've announced the classes, they've announced the races, and they've started showing a little bit about mounts and stuff, and those hoverboards of doom, and they've sort of done a little bit of that. And that gave the community a chance to kind of be vocal about things. I mean, they're doing these streams, etc. But you have more time to work on that, which to me is a huge part of the game. I mean, if you don't get the combat mechanic right, you can really screw your game over. It is such a fundamental part of an MMO. But then you've got these war plots, you've got these raids that are not going to see as much quote-unquote airtime to the community to debate, etc. I don't know. I hope that as information is released, people remember MMOs are iterative. Be patient, but give feedback that is actually going to progress the game in a good direction. Don't just sit there and trash it and be negative Nancy's. That's not going to be a benefit to anybody. And I just hope that, from everything I've seen within the community, The majority of the community is incredibly supportive and positive. Keep that up. Don't become negative Nancy's. Understand, this is an iterative process. And so far, Carbine have proven, which is why we are fanboys and fangirl and fanlopzilla of Carbine. They listen. So, that's my 2 cents. Is there more news, Gazzy?
No. No more news.
Oh, yes, there is. Oh, yes, there is. Pappy v. Frost. Pappy v. Frost. Just saying.
Oh, yes. So
and the Stalker stream is coming.
Yes. So there is a Stalker stream that is coming this weekend. And I shall be watching the Stalker stream, even though Stalker isn't my favourite class. I shall still be watching it because it's good to get intel on the enemy, if that makes sense. If you're going to be doing PvP up against the Stalker, it's good to know how the Stalker plays.
This is true.
But yes, the Battle Royale, the Clash of the Titans, the David and Goliath. I'll leave you to choose who David and Goliath are. Chad Pappy Moore versus Stefan Mr. Frosty Frost.
Team Pappy.
Definitely going to be going on the side of the Frost here, as we discussed last time.
I think the Frost Giant is going to win there.
Y'all can think whatever you want.
But let's kick things on a notch. You had a rather good article out in the week.
Yeah. Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Hopefully people here have had a chance to see it.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, tell us your thoughts on your article, why don't you?
Well, more in and around what you were discussing and the community response.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I thought it was a very well-written article.
I wouldn't disagree.
It had a superb use of adjectives. And it's packed full.
Too many of these words in it. There were lots of them.
Yeah, there were lots of words. There was about 1,500 of them in total, broken over 2 pages, and interspersed with 6 images. If you're interested in typography and page layout, then it's definitely one that you want to look at.
Personally, I'd recommend checking it out for the content. But,
yeah, same here.
Yeah. So, one of the things which has happened recently is a tweak to character customization. And what they did was listen to a lot of feedback, and this wasn't just from people playing beta, this was people who were looking at live streams, this was people like Cassandra Core at US Gamer, who is a fantastic person. I've met her, she's very good. People like Elliot Lefebvre from MassiveLeague.com, who writes about WildStar regularly. Again, a good guy. Not the most, he's quite critical of WildStar, and in a good way. In fact, everyone has commented on a couple of things. If you play a male, you have choice. You can either be a big birdie Grannock, you can be a fairly lithe and skinny Orin, you can be a fairly stout and proud Cassian, you can be a quite tall, kind of medium-sized Makari, or you can be a Chua, which I think is the best choice.
Don't forget the dragon.
Oh,
There's
and the
always
dragon
gonna be
as well.
some people
Kind of
that
hunched
Everyone
over.
forgets the dragon. Why?
So kind of hunched over dragon, kind of like, rah, you know, it's like, yes, master. Igor-y thing. Is that it? Hunchback. Yeah? No? Okay.
It could be.
Anyway.
More Neanderthalic, if that's a word.
More
If not, I've just completely invented one.
So that was fantastic. You have huge amounts of choice if you want to play a male character. If you want to play a female character, you effectively have the same kind of model, but just scaled differently depending on what race you happen to pick. So you get a busty Orin, you get a fairly busty Cassian, you get a busty Makari, or you get a busty Grannock. Grannock? Busty? Okay, I'll live with it. Or you get a Chua. Yeah? Because Chua are neither gender. So you can go one of 4 different shapes, but just scaled differently, or Chua. So folks get loads of choice, and women get no choice. So there was a bit of a kind of like, hang on a minute here. And they've decided to make a bit of a tweak to give people more of a choice. Now, if you look at other games, like Guild Wars 2, you've got plenty of choice in both genders. If you look at World of Warcraft, again, you've got plenty of choice in both genders because you've got things like Tauren, you've got the Pandaren, you've got the Gnomes. You look at WildStar, no choice. So they decided, we'll put some choice in, and everyone went nuts. This is my unimpressed face. It's like, okay.
Nuts in which
why do
way?
you have a problem?
That's the thing.
the
I mean,
record.
there's two different types of nuts. One can become nuts and go ecstatic for something, or one can be nuts and go completely against it. Which type of nuts are you referring to?
Well, it
I'm
wasn't a
talking-
particularly positive face, was it?
Well,
I'm
it's an
talking
unimpressed
about-
face, but that's why I want the clarification. Because if Gazzy's going to put his unimpressed face on, I want it applied to the right thing.
Okay, I'm talking about rational thought hitting the ejector seat.
Rational thought. Phew.
And you better clarify where you're
Yes.
referring to that exodus of rationalization.
Yes,
So-
please.
There has been a huge amount of discussion. Mostly people saying this is a terrible change and you've given in to minority voices and stuff like that, and it's why was this such a big issue and stuff like that, and you should change it back or you should give us a choice. Well, it's like, firstly, if they give you a choice, that means they've got to code in two models for the same thing. They've got to code in the UI. They've got to do this, that, and the other. It's like they can either do a small change, which fits in their development schedule, or they can do this, 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 then this, to satisfy giving people a full set of toggles. And there's no guarantee that it would work with the animations and stuff like that. So there's that issue. There's also like, well, you want to remove people from having choice in a game so you can get your way. So how does that work exactly? Surely you want a game to be inclusive rather than exclusive and your way or nothing. So I have a variety of issues with that viewpoint, and all of which comes down to, well, you're either being really selfish by saying, I want to impose my viewpoint and to hell with giving people a bit of flexibility about body types, or you're going, well, I just want big tits. And you can take that whichever way you like.
The thing that sticks out to me, and this could have something to do with the research I'm doing for an article that'll be coming up on our site soon. You know, you're going to have the people who want to have as much control as possible over their character design, from how many freckles they have showing on their right shoulder down. And then you're going to have the people who don't care at all. Mizpah is notorious for this. I don't care what I look like. Just let me play with the game mechanics.
Random play, go.
Whereas I tend to be on the opposite spectrum. Give me as much control as absolutely possible because I like having that kind of customization control. But at the same time, it's not the deal breaker for me where it is for some people. To me, the reality is, I think the fact that the women all basically have the same body type was kind of a bad choice. That's just, there's no way around that. However, what I will state is at least they've made mention of this and they are acknowledging, okay, guys, so we've kind of made a little bit of a foobar here. We're going to work on it. Can people please just accept that and can we move on now?
I wouldn't even necessarily say it was the case of we have decided we only want the female gender to have this. It's a case
I don't
of
see anything wrong with that,
at a
but
given point in the development schedule, what still has to be done.
exactly.
What other bits of the pie need to be eaten. So from this point onwards, make smart choices. Okay, I'm in the camp where I'm not very affected on the physical looks of my character. I very much understand those people that are. I'll go to great lengths to get my gear looking right, but my actual character model doesn't do a lot for me. Personal choice. Let's give everyone all the choices in the world. The choices, how shall I phrase this? Include both reductive and enlargement surgery, should those options be needed.
Well,
and later on down the line, I'm sure we'll get the slides. In the interim, is it that much of a big deal?
okay, I'm going to come in on that.
I'm just going to point out to some people who are watching, just think of Saints Row 4 and your ability to slide your sex appeal around.
So, if you look at Guild Wars 2, a reasonable amount of customization, but not a huge amount, but it kind of fitted in with the art style. If you look at World of Warcraft, very, very limited customization, but it was designed to run on a much wider range of machines. And in fact, World of Warcraft still runs on a much wider range of machines than Guild Wars 2. If you look at Star Wars: The Old Republic, no sliders, just kind of different body types. And you go 1, 2, 3, or 4. Yeah? So you want 1, 2, 3, or 4. Yeah? If you look at a couple of other games, Secret World, no sliders. If you look at Rift, again, no sliders.
You don't get
Elder
sliders
Scrolls
in
Online.
World of Warcraft either. The only thing you really
No,
change there is
exactly.
your hair and your face.
Exactly.
Final
and
Fantasy, however, you get so many, it's kind of terrifying.
Yeah, exactly. So it really depends on both the game and the art style and where your emphasis is. If you look at something like Final Fantasy, you've got a huge amount of control over how your character can look. You've got to think, well, how much does that come into play in terms of my character's own visibility? And when you're looking at a crowd of people, when you're looking at that third-person view and stuff like that. Elder Scrolls Online has a large amount of sliders, but that's a different style of game that uses heavy instancing to try and minimize the network load, stuff like that. So you kind of play your game to the style, or play your customization to the style of game you want to create. So a small amount of customization means you can have loads more people in the screen, you can have big open zones and stuff like that, and your network bandwidth doesn't go through the floor.
Maybe that's why
issue,
they chose the body types for women that they did, because the majority of players tend to play female body types. I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not saying it's true, but maybe, you know, maybe the concept is we have so many people who are going to play the female character model, we need to do something to prevent the network load. Maybe that's all the decision choice was.
So I would not be surprised if we see in the fullness of time different body types, because that's not a huge thing. You're just sending over a small amount of variables. I would be surprised if we see sliders, because it would have a multiplicative effect on network bandwidth. But body types, like the SWTOR approach, I can see that possibly working. It depends if they can get the animation rigging and the texturing and stuff like that to work properly. And that's a big if.
I could see that.
But I would say for the response that occurred originally and the way they've reacted to it, I think it's a good move. The response that's happened as in they've made the change and now people are saying, oh, change. You'd have thought they'd have nerfed their favorite class the way people are carrying on. I mean, crying out loud, this is a beta.
See,
priorities, you know?
People will always be people, and it's very easy to target the thing that you can go, this isn't the thing I wanted. And it's all the way back to, as you were saying, Pseudo, and Gazimoff and Pseudo both want to talk at the same time.
And another thing.
And another thing. I shall stop.
You said...
I'm being hit Pseudo, by this hand.
You said, Pseudo, that, oh, what about having options for expansion and reduction? Well, if you play Scarlet Blade, you can pay to
that was
unlock
not me. That was him. Do not try to associate that with me.
I would just like to take this moment to disassociate myself with Scarlet Blade in every single way imaginable.
Same.
So you want that kind of option. There is a game that caters for that already. In fact, if you want to have limitless customization, go and play Second Life, and you can pay someone to make you an avatar that's coated in the things.
Okay. Let us reel in our little Chua. Let me put him back in his straitjacket, put him into the corner, get the Hannibal Lecter mask on him, and let us have a chance to speak now. I kind of want to throw this out to anybody who happens to be in the beta or going to get into the beta in the future, or even open beta when it happens, even once the game launches. Instead of focusing on something like that, please take the time to ask yourself, what is fun about this game? And work on ensuring that that becomes your key focus. If your focus is just how a character looks, I'm going to kind of go out on the limb and say, go buy a Barbie and dress it. Because the reality is, there is so much to making an MMO. There is so much. If you just want to focus on literally one thing and make that the sole reason why a game is fun, I don't think you're doing yourself as a player service or the developers. But if you ask yourself, what is fun about this game? Is it the mechanics? Is it the grinding? Is it the fact that I can go up against a Chua and like kill a Chua, even though it's tiny, I can smush it with my foot? You know, what is it about it that makes it fun and help to ensure that that fun is continued?
Killing Chewas, definitely fun. And whereas I'm all for everyone having the maximum amount of choice, the appropriate choice at the appropriate point in time. So it's priorities. And to me, I actually have to agree with the Gazimoff. Some of the reactions we've seen, I struggle to say they are in kilter with the reality of circumstance. But more interestingly, more excitingly, we can talk about anything 1 to 15. So what do people want to ask? There's a channel of people out there. There's 3 people with very differing opinions in these 3 rooms connected by the magic of the interwebs. And we have a lop, so let's start the conversation with the lop. So there might be some people out there that don't know. Pseudo.
Yes.
What blazes is that strange blue thing with the big ears?
Well, for anybody who watched our last episode where we were actually talking about the possibility that the Elden of the game and the big giant lore might have been the lollilops, which, might I add, I went back and checked, are the worms. They're not frogs. They are worms. So I was right in saying that you are licking worms. Just saying. It was visible in one of the streams that somebody was doing, and I just went,
hallucinogenic worms.
Hallucinogenic worms. Exactly. But the Lop are actually a race of beings that you run across. In particular, on the Exile side is where I have seen them. What's his name? I wish I could remember his stream. One of the guys who was streaming ran across them and basically almost fell out of his chair with how cute they are.
Oh, Richie Procopio.
Yes. Yes. He completely fell in love with them. And I have to admit, I'm in love with them too. And that's why I have a Lop, also because Suliko is awesome. And she is here in the channel. Thank you for the Lop. But yes, they have a rather interesting storyline that involves hallucinogenics and jumping. So, but yes, I mean, what more do you want me to say about the Lop?
You have to go and explore that one.
Yes, you do.
I'm going to ask you 2 guys a question.
Uh-oh.
Levels 1 to 15, how many times have you played through it?
Many lots.
I have... I'm smiling. I've watched many people play through 15. And, yeah.
So Mizpah is going with many lots. I'm going to concur with the kind of many lots. This is one of the great things.
Actually, I should be asking you guys a bunch of questions.
Yes.
So let's do this. I shall take over the stream. The Pseudo stream is now taken over by the Chupacabra. And the Chupacabra is going to ask questions. Gazimoff, what was your most favorite experience on the Exile side? Since you are so Dominion, you have obviously played Exile, have you not?
I have played Exile. I think that there are a number of really good experiences on the Exile side. I've played the Northern Wilds, so one of the great things about leveling up in WildStar is that you're not kind of on the same track every time you level through, and you don't have to take the route that it pushes you down. So you start off in the Ark ship and you get to your level 1 to 3 experience. And I've got to be honest with you, I haven't seen it more recently, but when I went through and leveled my Exile character, it was a very slick and polished experience, more polished than Dominion. There are some fantastic in-game cutscenes that aren't kind of in the way, they just embellish the storyline just that little bit and help to pull you into the whole feeling of what you're doing and why you're there and stuff like that. So if you do get a beta ticket, one of those kind of golden tickets that are going around, you know, I would say try out the Exile side. As a Dominion player, try out the Exile side as well.
Well, see, I would totally say I would try out everything, but you know, if you're planning on playing Exile, play Dominion. If you're planning on playing Dominion, play Exile. I mean, to me, that would be kind of the really cool way to do it. But at the same time, so your favorite Exile experience is...
one of the things that I was playing a space zombie healer type
A
thing.
more dash?
More Dash, yeah. I kept on thinking Macari, and it was like, I know this is not Macari, but give me a break. I have been working since 6 o'clock this morning in the city of London and had to commute as well. So,
You are forgiven.
break-
Continue.
Thank you. So, yeah. Playing a Mordesh in with a healer, so you've got the kind of 2 resonators things. It's really cool. I see why people call it kind of like the techno or the dubstep class.
The
It's
medic.
got a really neat sounds. The medic, yeah, because it's really got this cool soundscape and some really neat graphics that come along with the kind of ability effects. Anyway, I decided to go through the kind of not Northern Wilds, but the kind of Orange style starting zones where you go through a bunch of trees and stuff like that. And they've got this really huge, like, robot tree thing partway through, which has got this whole kind of quest chain around it. And it's just you walk up to this thing, you think that's a really impressive thing, and then you do some stuff and the whole thing springs to life. You think, am I going to have to kill that now? Because it reminded me of that Blur trailer when it's like, he touches the thing and the big robot springs to life and you go, oh crap. It was like, but no, I did not have to kill it, and there's a whole thing.
That is a good thing, but we have to be careful not to throw too many spoilers.
So that was your favorite thing, was the thing that was in the tree. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we have a question for you. Mizpah, what is your favorite thing from the Dominion side?
That is actually going to be quite easy to answer. And I'm trying to think of the correct name here, because bear in mind I've been busy moving house for a few weeks. But a certain chewer, it must be said, who you run into on that side of the fence, and their particular mindset, view on life, and the conversations they hold with you. I see Gazimoff smiling, so I'm sure he's thinking of the thing that I'm talking about.
Are you talking about Mondo Zax?
That's the name I was looking for. Indeed, Mondo
Mondo
Zax. One of the
Zax.
best characterizations that I have run into in a game, full stop. I don't want to play Chula. I don't want to play Dominion, but I was laughing my head off all the way through. All I'm now going to hope for at some point in the future is the opportunity, as a fully grown-up exile, to go and kill Mondo Zax.
Oh no!
Please let that happen.
Do you know what I'm hoping for? A kind of Mondo Zax toll with a rip cord and go, science without damage, not true science.
I would buy one.
Silico, can I please
I
get a
would
Mondo
definitely
Zax?
buy one. No, I'm going to request the Mondo Zax. You've got the lot.
Hey, I got a lot of things because I am kind and she is amazing, so I am very thankful. I mean, even Gazzy has gotten a chewer.
Do I have to infer from that I'm neither kind nor amazing?
You said it, not me.
So,
Okay, now I'm going to jump in and ask you guys a completely different type of question. We've seen a lot of people streaming 1 through 15. We've seen a lot of people talking about it. My question to you is, what one specific part of the game do you believe needs the most polish and why? Now, we know we can't talk about anything above 15, and, you know, they haven't discussed raids. They haven't discussed war plots. We know that there's been a bit of PvP because the Walatiki Temple, or the matches are still occurring, etc. But do you believe there is one area that they really need to nail down hardcore for the 1 to 15 before release?
I can certainly comment in general about things I'm hoping to see from further exploration in the Winter Beta 2. But I haven't yet had the chance to fiddle around or play with it much, mooning. So I'm actually going to duck that question, not because I don't have ideas and opinions, but I haven't had the opportunity to go and investigate the changes they've made in detail. So I don't want to turn around and say, hey, they've changed this, and have people go, but that's exactly what they have changed. So that's why I'm going to duck it. But next week, I will answer that question in full.
Fair enough. Gazzy, you have the talking stick, and the Champacabra wants to know what you think.
Okay, so with every single game that you've played, and this is the kind of royal you,
Okay.
there is a moment that grabs you, that pulls you into the game, that you go, oh wow, BioShock Infinite has such a moment quite early on when you open out and you see all of the buildings kind of hovering against each other. You have that kind of prelude where you're rowing in and then you go up and you see the whole vista of all
the
of these
expansive
floating.
reveal moment.
Exactly. And that is fantastic. With and that kind of expansive reveal is played through so many different games. You can see it going right the way back to the original Unreal, which was 1996, 97, possibly.
I think it's 96.
But, yeah, so you kind of are in this prison ship, and you come out, you crawl out of the ducts, you're on this alien planet, and you look out, and there's this huge vista with a waterfall and stuff like that. And trust me, there are more polygons in a Chula than there was in that whole scene these days. But still, at the time, it looked immense.
Yeah.
The problem with WildStar, and this is something they can sort out, and I am sure that they are working on it, is getting that hook, getting that wow, getting that whoa. And you can see it start to emerge with little clever tricks. There are some moments, there are some clever things like you start playing and they defrost your character from cryogenic suspension. And you get that kind of really clever intro sequence where it puts the logo above the screen. And that's kind of like getting there. It just needs...
I'd also mention a cutscene where something explodes.
Yes, definitely. So there's a couple of them in there. And I think that the Exos side is better than the Dominion side, or at least it was for that. But I think it just needs a couple more hooks. Or it may be kind of like a prelude thing to say, this is what the game is all about. This is what you're doing here. The problem with having an intro sequence where you're standing there watching it passively is that it becomes basically a bit of intro movie where someone just hits escape because I want to play. It needs to be part of that overall experience. But I think that's something that it's getting there, but it's not quite.
Well, I mean, if you look back at the way that, I'll just pick something random out of my head, the World of Warcraft intro movies work every time you get a new expansion, there is something kind of there in the way that they hook. Now, based on what you see, I mean, you have these people going into the Ark ship. In a way, when you leave the Ark ship to go to the planet, I think that is like one of the ultimate times to throw in a kind of overarching movie of you see the different parts of Nexus being either attacked or you see them being defended and you see the different sides. I mean, the Tor trailer was epic, absolutely epic, because you were drawn right into the story. We know right now that the Dominion and the Exile are fighting over this planet for resources. Great. But you could do so much with that in some kind of intro movie. Now, to be fair, that is kind of sort of along the lines of like last thing to be put in when you're trying to do a beta,
And you mentioned Blizzard, who are very good at those. It's one of their hallmarks. And you don't see those till right at the end of a given process either there.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly.
The most incredible piece of audio on their intro wasn't there for a long time.
Yeah.
You've also got things like when you get an expansion, sometimes you get a kind of a really cool reveal that goes along with it. So, for example, Burning Crusade, you walk through the gate and you have that huge sprawl of Hellfire Peninsula in front of you. You get some of that, and the cinematics team have done a fantastic job with the in-game engine. When you fly into Dehradun, you get that kind of the way the ship flies in. You get to see the whole Bloodfire village and stuff like that, and that's cool. Don't get me wrong. I think they've done a fantastic job there. But you're quite right, Pseudo, in terms of getting that whole world view and say, this is this huge planet full of unexplored content just waiting for me to discover it. And this is this tiny, tiny bit where I'm going to be starting out.
I'd throw in, just talking about the idea of the expansive reveal, a little tiny bit of game theory stuff for a moment. There was a really good episode of Extra Credit, quite an old one now, I think, where they actually examined in minute detail the start sequence from the Skyrims, and talked about all the tricks that were used, and actually concluded that although Skyrim is one of the most incredible games out there, they've actually missed a few tricks. Because, in Skyrim, the moments are when you walk out the cave, you've got the waterfall, the dragons, and you go, uh-oh, you've got the bears, and you run away at high speed because they're much more scary than the dragons. But Skyrim has got those moments in spades. They maybe didn't use them at the very beginning, but it actually talks about the design theory behind that technique. So if you're interested in what this expansive reveal is and really what we're getting at,
then I obviously need
checking
to
that one out.
link that into YouTube when people watch this, which is fine.
There is another issue that's MMOs are traditionally open world, whereas things like Skyrim, at least in the beginning areas, are very, very linear. Yes, it does pop into an open world once you've gone through the initial sections, but for those starting parts, you're kind of on a conveyor belt of getting through that. And
Which is easier to manage and produce.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So, not an easy thing.
Okay.
Huh.
So, back on the 1 to 15 content trail, to the channel, are there any questions, opinions, queries, quandaries, or other words beginning with Q that I can't quite think of at this moment in time?
Well, obviously that's
I'll
going to
wait on
take
that.
them a minute to get out there.
Indeed. So you were saying, Pseudo?
Well, as I was going to say, it's interesting to me that when you specifically went to tackle what you think really needs the polish is technically, Gazi, like the very last thing added to a game pre-launch, which seems kind of interesting. You didn't go, the combat needs a bit, it feels a little clunky, or the race needs a little bit of help. I mean, I know your opinions on lore, which is interesting, but you didn't quite throw that out there as being like the biggest lacking thing, which to me seems to correlate properly with the fact that we are at a stage with this game where it's polish. It's not, we need to rewrite XYZ, it's polish.
So the combat, for example, is incredibly satisfying. I have played a lot of these kind of active combat MMOs, so things like Terra, things like Guild Wars 2, things like the Secret World. Secret World, believe it or not, has a dynamic combat system. And by far, WildStar is the best one of the whole lot. It feels more immersive because you've got the telegraphs, you can be much more responsive to what's going on. The whole network code is designed with very low latency in mind. So it anticipates you've got a lag of 300 milliseconds, but you can still turn on a dime. You're not kind of wading through treacle. And it means that whatever you're trying to do, whether it's like PvP, whether it's dungeoneering, and that's going back to the Arcship EU, whether it's things like just solo content, or whether you're even kind of questing as a small group through the 1 to 15 content, it is so much fun. It is by far the best combat system I have played, and I have played a lot of them. It reminds me an awful lot of first and third person shooters, and this is going back to like the Heretic, Hexen kind of days, if you remember those.
Wow.
In terms of the responsiveness you get and the rapidity of actions. I just find that so refreshing, instead of just the whole kind of push button receive bacon, which is where Warcraft is at the moment. And don't get me wrong, some people are still loving that kind of combat. But for crying out loud, when you're standing there and your entire thing is, can I memorize a pattern and move out the bad stuff?
I'd suggest there's a slight simplification, but yes, there is something about this active combat that is just phenomenal. One thing they have managed to do is, as you say, that level of connectivity. For all of the things people don't like about many aspects of WoW, the dynamic connection to your character is remarkably good. It is like the string is attached, and everything is instantly connected. And this is the only other game I've played that hits those levels of connectivity with your character. And that brings everything to life.
I jump in here to bring a question from Frog. Frog is asking, is it beneficial for PvE group questing 1 to 15, or would solo be better? Now, I have a good answer for this, but I'll let you go, Gazi, because you were like chomping at the bit. What the heck?
Okay, so...
Gazi's got his soapbox out today. He is all ready.
So I would definitely say, if you've got someone you can level with, grab them and don't let go. Because if you group up with them, you get certain benefits. You earn renown for any kind of group activity, which is a currency that you can then spend on delightful stuff like housing bits and pieces and other stuff that I don't know about yet. But housing bits and pieces, so you can really have a cool shack somewhere. But also, when you're grouping up, you get much more momentum in combat. So one of the great things about WildStar is that it rewards you for skillful play. So if you manage to take down one mob at a time, yeah, well done. If you take down 2 or 3 mobs at a time, it says double kill, triple kill. You get like a 30-second buff as a reward. You get, and so that encourages you to keep on playing and keep on trying to stay in combat to keep the buffs up. But if your health is starting to go down, you might dip out of combat, but then I lose the buff. If you're grouped up with someone, you can keep that going quite happily. So yeah, I would say definitely group up with someone. But grouping is also optional because there's open tagging, so you don't have to rely.
See, I'm going to jump in just before you, Mizpah, and I'm going to make my comment. Here's the thing. This is a game where they say play the game the way you want. I am a group player, so I'm always going to want to support group. There are people who are solo players. You can enjoy solo playing in this game perfectly fine. However, what I throw out, you have 4 paths, people. Pick your path. Pick your friends who have the other 3 paths. Group up. Don't let go. See all the content. Don't just settle for seeing all the warrior stuff or all the settler stuff or all the explorer stuff or all the scientist stuff. Get it all and enjoy it.
And it's really designed and laid out because there's places where you need more than one ilk in the same party to really make the best of things. We also haven't touched on those lovely little bronze, silver, gold rewards.
Yes.
For doing certain things, and if you want to hit some of those targets, kill so many X's in Y seconds, trust me, you ain't about to do it solo at the top end of some of those. And we say play the game the way we want to play it. And I just want to throw this one out, and I'll pause, Gazzy.
That's okay.
So many times people say, well, I want to play solo. But people forget, just because you want to play group, unless the game mechanics support group, reward group, encourage other players to play group, unless you're running around with a guild, where's that group play going to come from? And that's something they do really well here. You can play solo. You will be better rewarded for playing as a group. And here's the kicker. You get rewarded for playing as a group early. Really early.
Yeah.
And that means people that come into this game are going to learn to be sociable. They're going to learn to interact. And people are going to grow their characters, their skills, their game understanding all together. You're not going to get to level umpty something and go, what is this group chat of which you speak?
So there's this fantastic thing. I'll give you an example. If you say, you're a bit eager when you're pulling, and you pull far too much, yeah? Yeah. Have I just gone?
No, you're here. We're just laughing at you.
Fine. So you're a bit eager, you pull too much, and you're going, oh crap. Someone else comes along. Traditionally in an MMO, if they're on the same quest, like World of Warcraft, they would let you die, and once you've died, they would then kill the mobs that you were trying to kill and loot all the treasure. And you'd go like, but I needed those kills, and you just stood there and watched me die. Why? Because the game mechanics actually favor that to happen.
True.
In WildStar, if you encounter someone else and they need a bit of help, you can dive in, help them out. You don't have to group up or anything. You can help them out. And because of open tagging, you will still get a reward for helping them. That might be a contribution towards the quest that you're both trying to do, because you have percentage bars rather than kill X or Y. And you'll get a bit of loot as well, because, well, you're on the loot table, you help to whittle it down. That means that the other person will go, wow, thanks for helping me out. Boom. Instant social contacts. That's the kind of thing that WildStar is all about that other games don't have.
Okay, I'm gonna pounce in, because otherwise we're going to be repeating on this one, and we're getting close to the end time, and I still want to tackle some of the questions being brought in by our viewers. So, Screenager, by the way, hello, Campfire host. has asked, the question I'd like to see long term is how the system handles players of different levels grouping. I know we have mentoring, I think, isn't there? But I think I'd like to know what happens when one of your group gains, say, 5 to 10 levels. How does that level experience work with them? Now, an interesting question on top of this, and this is something that I have seen posted in other locations, is, they have discussed that if you walk into a 5-man instance or a dungeon, what have you, and you happen to have someone who's, say, max level, and they come in and it's one of the lower level dungeons, you can be pushed down to that level. But there are still people, and I have friends, and I myself am one of them, who loves the I'm max level, I'm going to walk into that low level thing, and I'm going to show them who's boss because I got sick of dying. Or I'm going to walk in with all of my friends, drag them along because I am max level and I can do so. So, what are your thoughts in relation to that, along with what is being revealed about how level is impacting? Now, it's a little difficult to answer because we've only got 1 through 15. But
I'm sorry, I'm kind of giggling at the image of you playing a green granite going, ho, smash, ho, smash.
How did you know that was going to be...
green giant, actually.
But see, how did you know that was going to be one of my alts?
There you go. Psychic Cure predicts.
Psychic is weird. But anyway, remember...
So I kind of have this fear that someone goes, okay, I'm going to, instead of leveling up normally, I will mentor down, help someone else out, and level up or accrue XP faster by doing that. I'm kind of worried about that. I would like them to have an incentive for doing so, and I'm hoping that the renown currency is enough of an incentive for them to do that, particularly if they say, well, I really want the shiny satellite dish for my exile shack, but I can't get the renown points for it. I know I'll mentor down and help some guys out. One way of earning renown. But I'm kind of also mindful of well, you're level 40 odd and you want to try and get this express route to 50. Yeah, I can see that happening, and that's the kind of that I do agree with. It's kind of like how they're going to balance that, because they need to make sure that the XP gains are roughly equal. So it's mentoring down isn't a shortcut to level cap.
It's a tricky thing to implement. Jeremy Gaffney was on the team who did all, I believe, the DC Universe bits and pieces where they first introduced a lot of this buddying. So they've got, some heritage and some experience there to call on. Not a game I've played myself, but from what I know of, that was actually very well done. Has been taken very well as a good example of such systems. So they'll be looking at it. They'll be coming up with are people making shortcuts? Are there issues with this? At the end of the day, though, if the game and the content out there, between higher levels is where it needs to be, then people are going to want to play through that content. I can't see me getting to level X and deciding to go and do nothing but mentor people at a lower level just because it's 5% faster. Now, don't get me wrong, I am all for being very, very, very efficient, attempting to be, because I'm slow enough at the best of times. But to sacrifice seeing 10 levels of content, I'm not sure that's a choice I'd want to make. I'm not sure there's that many people out there that would want to do so, certainly on a first playthrough.
I would actually point out that there is actually an entire sect of individuals who would be very interested in that. And the reality is, if it's an option and it is doable,
someone will do it.
Someone will do it if it fits their play style. Now, if
Athene works out that it's more efficient to level through mentoring down than it is through to level up the hard way, then you can bet your bottom dollar Athene will be doing it like it's going out of fashion, and just to kind of hit that world first. There are people out there.
Athene worked out that not swearing was the most efficient way to level.
It'd be level 2 months later.
Sorry, Athene.
He's a great guy, and I love it, but...
It's a lot of fun. That just popped into my head for some strange reason.
Cheers, by the way.
Yes. We are, however, at a point in time where we are going to need to say goodbye to everybody. I let us run a little bit late because we started a tiny bit late for sound, etc. So what I'm going to ask you is, in 2 sentences, sum up where you think WildStar is currently at, and scale of 1 to 10, how excited you are. 10 being, oh my god, it couldn't be here quick enough. Go ahead, Gazi, since you happen to be on the screen. 2 sentences and a number.
So we are in the final third of WildStar. That's my first sentence. And on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say I am pretty damn excited because I want to dig through all the lore.
Interesting. So the number?
The number? Do I have to give a number?
I'm sorry,
I
Chua.
hate
You
doing
must count.
Quantifiable measures.
You must. You must. I asked. Come on.
I would say it's a good 4.5 out of 5.
Out of 10. But okay.
Out of 10.
I had said 10, but that's okay.
Well,
That's
I
right,
make my own
mathematically
scales
minded
here.
work out that's 9.
All right. Ms.?
I have to temper this a touch with the fact that my mission, I've been that busy moving. I've been a little off the pulse for a couple of weeks, and I'm looking forward to the next week of fixing that. I would probably turn around and say I'm kind of a high 8. I'm looking forward to running around with the guild. My real, passions are things that aren't out there to talk about yet. We don't know much about yet. So, guild stuff, raiding stuff. Really looking forward to getting my hands onto those and talking about that in the future. Meanwhile, I think we'd better call a plumber because something tells me that there's actually a leak in Gazimoff's front room.
Yeah, Gazi, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm just desperately trying to put Mizpah off his stride.
Failing.
And your 1 to 10, you said was an 8.5?
I'm going to say a strong 8.
Okay. All right. Now, as someone who passed away, as the case may be, for me, the 2 sentences I have to say about WildStar. They haven't let me down yet, but I'm still cautiously optimistic. Been burned a few too many times. Haiku! Yay! However, my excitement rating, I'm going to have to agree with Screenager and Stout Pint. Actually add them up together and say I'm at about a 53. But I'm being patient.
Out of 10.
Yeah, 53 out of 10. I really want to get my hands on
Would you
it.
like a time machine?
You're going to have to lift it up a little higher because of the way that the camera is cut.
Gazimoff, what happens if a DeLorean hits a TARDIS?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah,
Is that the ultimate method of crossing the streams?
No, that's like unstoppable force immovable object.
that is crazy cool and awesome. However, right, it has come to the end of this episode of our Cosmotronic. We will be back next week, and I do believe that we will actually have our Kai Dream with us as well. So we will be back up to full personnel. I am really excited about this, and we will wait and see what drops for us in the upcoming week. As a reminder, hold on one second, Mr. Mizpah. As a reminder, this coming up Monday, we are going to be tackling the Holy Trinity DPS, and we will have a guest. It's just a matter of who, trying to finalize that one down. As I've got a few, and everyone's like, I think I can do it, but I don't know. So I'm kind of up in the air, but we should have somebody for that particular episode. However, on Tuesday's Cosmotronic next week, we will have Vistom coming with us, and we will be tackling Screenager, Blank Space, and myself, all things recruitment oriented. And if you happen to have any scenario you wish us to tackle, including Stout Pint, who seems to be a great source of awesome scenarios, please get in touch with us. Go to MMOBuff.TV. Find one of the ways to contact us. Click it. I will watch it all. Now, Mizpah, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I'll throw some thought out for the next few episodes. In fact, I'm being a little unfair to my co-hosts here because I've not had a chance to mention this to them up until now. So it's live reveals, and look forward to these surprised faces. At some point in the next, let's say, month, because we're finalising a date, we're going to be joined by a certain CRB that I was speaking to the other day. So you can look forward to that one. Also, I think it's probably about the time that in the next couple of weeks we'll try and put a show together, perhaps that has a bit of gameplay or some footage and something in it that we can talk about. So I think we'll be looking for that one.
Yep.
Also,
I can kick your ass at PvP.
Now that could be interesting. Chua versus Spellslinger.
I know who I'm voting to win. The
I know
Lop.
it's not me.
I vote the Lop. Lopzilla wins.
And also, we're hoping that very soon we'll get the studio set up and we can welcome everyone to the new MMOBuff studio. And hey, we might even try and get everyone in the same place for an episode at some point. Look at Gazimoff's face of dismay. But we will get there. Thanks for bearing with us. Welcome to the new year. Screenager, I am in fact not broadcasting from the laboratorial residence.
No, he isn't. He isn't. Trust me.
Yes.
I've been there. I know what it's like there. He is in like a complete. No, no.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
Mizpah? Not Mizpah, Swagzilla.
Yes?
I may have some more swag to send your way.
Ooh. Well, that makes Swagzilla happy, but that is completely unrelated to Cosmotronic.
Yes.
So, Lopzilla is what I'm going to go with for a while. I like being Lopzilla. So cute. Exciting.
Yes.
And,
I have a whole pile of swag that I've collected from the various places, which I have to send to you.
yes, I have got a whole bunch of swagsy things to go. I will state this, folks. MMOBuff is going to be at Rezzed EGX that is coming up.
Yes.
You are going to want to pay attention to our shows starting next week. We have something special coming, and also there is the possibility, I state possibility, that you might win a chance to have lunch with the MMOBuff crew.
Pastability.
Pastability. That's all I'm saying.
But
The
I'm
most
on a
interesting thing
low-carb
is
diet.
where?
I reveal nothing. The mouse is sealed.
Well, it'd have to be an Italian restaurant if it's a pastability.
It is, but if the mouth is sealed, there won't be much pasta.
Bye, everybody.